Ezras Hashem, today's daf is Masechta Sanhedrin Pei Daled 84, and we're going to begin from Pei Gimel Amud Beis, and let's make it big. 2 lines from where it gets wide. We are discussing in the Gemara of getting the of Misa B'dei Shemayim, where a person Lo Yaleinu dies young for doing certain averos. Obviously, Bezdin is not going to kill you for these averos, but these sins, if you do it, you get Misa B'dei Shemayim. Okay? Hold on.
And what does dying young mean?
Oh, dying young means, I think, below
65, right?
60.
60?
Yeah, 60 or, below 60. So that's what it means. Hi, we just began. We're discussing a Gimel Amud Beis, and we're up to 2 lines from the where it gets wide. So we're discussing over here that there are certain averos that a person can do, Lo Yaleinu, and he's going to die young. Bezdin is not going to put you to death, but you're going to die young. So one of those averos, I mean, interestingly enough, I discussed this yesterday, was we know if you eat pig, Lo Yaleinu, if someone eats pig, so then you transgressed one of the loises, one of the lavin. However, if you eat a Jaffa orange that they didn't take off trumas and maisris, so you're eating basically tevel. So we learned yesterday that this sin is the punishment of that sin is misa bidei shemayim, death by heaven. The line below younger than 60. So, and that I just want to differentiate that with karis, as we explained yesterday. Karis means that first of all you die young, below 60, but also if you have small children, they'll also die young. They'll also die in your lifetime, and then after you come to the next world, you're cut off. So karis is worse than misa b'dei shemayim. Okay, so let us begin over here. So tvul yoim sheshimish, a tvul yoim, one of the averos that if you do this avera, you're going to get the misa b'dei shemayim, is if you are a semi tuma and you did the service. Tvul yoim means you went to the mikvah, but you did not have the sun set on you. So therefore, you have a din like a tumah d'rabbanan. So you have a tumah on you. And if a kohen did the service while he was a tvul yoim, so then he gets misa b'dei shemayim. Minolan, how do you know that? The Tanya, we learned in a brisa, Rab Simai, Aimer Rab Simai. That's an interesting name. Rab Simai says, Remez l'tvul yoim shem ovet chilul menayin. How do I hint in the Torah that if somebody who did the service and he profanes the service, and he get Talmud Bavli Daf a kohen has to be totally holy and not to profane the service. Now, that's not talking about that discussion there. The kedoshim tiyu is not talking about a tamei that did the service. The nafkalami v'nazru. We have another pasuk that teaches you that if you're actually tamei, if you touch, let's say, a dead body, certainly you can't do this service because there's a pasuk called v'yinazru. So this kedoshim tiyu is telling you tineu inyan litvul yom sheshimis. That's teaching you that even a tvul yom, even if you have a small tumah of a tvul yom, you should not do the service, and you will disqualify the service. And now that we know that you're going to profane the service, yalav chilul chilul mitruma. Then we learn out chilul chilul from truma. There's a gzera shava, ma'alahalan, just like by truma. It says the word chila. Don't profane truma, which means a tamei kohen should not eat truma, and if he does, he gets the death penalty. Afkan. So also over here, a tvul yoim that does the service will also get misa b'dei shemayim. One of the things we learned that if a kohen, let's say, did not wear a gartel while he was doing the service, you think he's just did the service, that's fine. Wrong. It's as if a Yisrael did the service, which means you get misa b'dei shemayim. Benolan, how do you know that? The pasuk says in last week's parsha, "V'chagarta oisam avnei." You have to belt the kohen when he and that makes him a kohen. So bisman shebidayim aleim, when a kohen is wearing his clothing, he does the service kunasam aleim. He's like a kohen. Ein bigdayim aleim. If he's not wearing the clothing, let's say he's just missing the gartel. Ein kunasim aleim, then he's not a kohen. The havel zarim, he's like a zar. He's like a Yisrael that's doing the service. V'amamar, we learned before, zar sheshimish b'misa. We have another pasuk that teaches you that if you're not a kohen and you do the service, you get misa b'dei shemayim. Umchusa kapara minolan. How do you know if a kohen that was a mitzayra and forgot to bring his carbon and did not yet bring his carbon, or he was a zav and didn't bring his carbon, he's not allowed to do the service. And if he does the service, he's bisa b'dei shemayim. Amar Rav Huna, the Amakra, the pasuk says, "V'chipa le'al kohen v'tohera," that once after the kohen brings the carbon for the woman that needs to bring a carbon, tohera, she becomes tar. Toher meklal she tmeya. Up until now, as long as you didn't bring your carbon, even if you went to the mikvah 100 times, you're still considered a tameh. So the kohen who did not bring his kapara, he did not bring the carbon, he's still considered to be a tameh. V'amamar tameh sheshimish b'misa. A tameh that does the service gets misa b'dei shemayim. So that's how we know a b'chusa kapara that does the service gets misa b'dei shemayim. One of the other things that you get misa b'dei shemayim v'shloi richitz yadayim v'galayim. A kohen that did the service and did not do the washing of the hands and feet from the kior. And that's from this week's Sedra. How do you know that? The pasuk says, when they do this service, they should wash their hands and feet, and they will not die. So if they do the service and they didn't wash their hands and feet, they get misa b'dei shemayim. Shtui yain. If a kohen took a cup of wine and then did the service, he gets misa b'dei shemayim. Tiksiv, yain v'sheich al teish, don't drink wine, and v'lo yamusi, so that you shall not die. So we see the pasuk over there, if you look at the whole pasuk, tells you that if you drink wine, kohen that drinks wine and then does the service gets misa b'dei shemayim. Upriya roish, and the kohen that did the service and didn't take a haircut. Every 30 days, a kohen has to take a haircut. Let's say he didn't take the haircut and did the service, so you think it's an innocent mistake. He gets the death penalty. Misa b'dei shemayim. The ksiv, because it says, "Aroshim lo yigalechu for lo yishalechu." He should cut his hair. Uksiv basrei v'yayin lo yishtu. And the pasuk also says that he should not drink wine. So that's the pasuk in Yecheskel. So iskish pruirosh l'shtu yayin. There's a juxtaposition between growing of the hair to drinking wine. Mashtu yayin b'misa, just like the Chumash says clearly out that if a kohen drinks wine, he gets misa b'dei shemayim. Pruirosh. So also, if he lets his hair grow and does the service, b'misa he will get misa b'dei shemayim. Says the Gemara, Aval Oral, a kohen that was an oral, he didn't take a bris milah. Let's say he didn't take it for health reasons, because his brother died, oinen, or the kohen is an oinen. He's like an aval. Let's say that day one of his close relatives died. Yoshev, or he does the service sitting down. In all these three things, be'az haray, he only gets a negative commandment, but he doesn't get misa b'dei shemayim. Aramel nolan, how do you know a kohen that does the service when he's an oral does not get the death penalty, but he should not do the service? We didn't see it in the Chumash that a kohen that doesn't have a bris milah cannot do the service. That's not written in the Chumash. Yecheskel ben Buzi taught it to us. So sometimes you see in Nach something you don't see in the Chumash. In Nach it says, Kol ben Eicher Aral Leiv, and we go to Amud Aleph, the Arel Basol Li'Ovel Mikdashi. The Chumash, the Cheskel says that an oral of a kohen should not come into my Mikdash, he should not do the service. So Cheskel spelled it out very clearly, but it's only a lav. Oinein Menolon, how do you know a kohen that lost a relative, he's like the first day of his Avelos, he's not allowed to do the service? Because the Pasuk says, we don't see it in the Chumash, but we can infer it from the Chumash. The Torah tells you that a kohen gadol, that lost a relative, min hamikdash lo yetze, should not conduct himself like an oval, and he should never leave the base of mikdash. V'lo yechales mikdash alekov. And if he does the service, he's not going to profane the service. A kohen gadol who lost a relative will not profane the service. He could do the service when he's an oinen. Ha'acha, but a regular kohen hevet shlo yotza, that did not leave the base of mikdash, Chilel, if he does the service, he will profane the service. So we see that an oinen, a kohen hedyot, a regular kohen that lost a relative, is not allowed to do the service. Oh, wait a second. Amalei Ravado Ravava v'nelev chila chila metruma malahalam b'misa avkam b'misa. If you consider it as if the kohen hedyot is mechalel the avoida, he profanes the service if he does it when he's an oinen. So let us learn a gzeira shava chila from truma. Just like by truma, a kohen tame that eats truma, the Torah tells you get the misa b'dei shemayim. So also an oinen that will do the service will also get misa b'dei shemayim. Answers the Gemara, miksiv be begufe, miklala kaase. Doesn't really say the word chilel by a kohen hedyot. All the Chumash says is that a kohen gadol will not be mechalel, will not profane the service if he does it. Havadava habom in a klal. It comes from an inference. The chol dava habom in a klal ain't done in oisam b'gzeira shava. Anything that you could is learned from an inference, but it doesn't say explicitly that word. So then we don't make it a gzeira shava. Since it doesn't say outright in the Chumash that a kohen hedyot profanes the avodah if he does the service, it's only we learn it from an inference from kohen gadol. So therefore we don't make a gzeira shava. So there's only a lav, oinen, kohen hedyot doing the service. Yoshev menola, and how do I know a kohen hedyot that does the service sitting down? How do you know that that he did an avera? God said, I chose the Kohanim so they will stand when they will do the service. And if they do it, the service sitting down, it's almost as if they're like Yisrael doing the service. When do I choose you as a Kohen if you're standing? When you're sitting, you're not considered to be a Kohen. Balmum, if a Kohen is handicapped, and he does the service. Rabbi says b'misa, he gets misa b'dei shemayim. The Chachamim say he only gets a negative commandment. My time at the Rebbe, what's the reason of Rebbe that you get misa b'dei shemayim, a balmum, a handicapped kohen doing the service? The pasuk says, Ach el poroiches lo yavav v'lichalas migdash elkav. Torah tells you by a balmum that he should not do the service. Okay, I know a lav. But v'yalav chilel mitruma. But now it says the word chilel, so from truma. So I'll have a gzeira shava malahalam b'misa. Just by truma, kohen tamei eating truma gets misa b'dei shemayim. Avkan b'misa. So that's why. But Rebbe holds a balmum will also get misa b'dei shemayim. A balmum, a kohen balmum, doing the service will get misa b'dei shemayim. Says the Gemara, why do you make it like misa b'dei shemayim? Let us learn chilul from noiser, gzeira shava, that just like noiser, if you eat leftover carbonos, right, and you didn't burn it, you just ate it, so malahalim bekares, a person who takes that gets kares, avkan, so also if a kohen, a balmum kohen that does the service, bekares will get kares. So let's even make it worse. Once you're making it the death penalty, give it the worst type of misa, which is kares. Answers the Gemara Mistaver Metumra Have Leila Melev Shakei Psula Guf and Psula Guf, that I would rather learn a Balmum Kohen doing the service from a Kohen Tameh doing the service, because those are psulim of the individual, the Kohen himself. Noisar is a disqualification in the food item. So therefore, it's not so much when you learn Gzeir Shava, it has to be somewhat similar. Especially if you have a choice to learn the Gzeir Shava this way or that way, you choose the one that's more similar. Says the Gemara, Ela Minoisa Havalei Lemeimus, Adarabam, Noisa, let's learn it, because from Truma is only Truma. Noiser is Kaidesh, Panim, Pigel, V'Noisar. Noiser seems more aligned with the Kohen doing the service in the Beis HaMikdash, because that has to do with the Beis HaMikdash. Truma being eaten by a Kohen Tameh has nothing to do with the Beis HaMikdash. So if I have a Gzeir Shava, I have a choice to learn it from Truma or Noisar, I'd rather learn it from Noisar. Allah says, the Gemara, the real reason of Rebbe that says that a Balmum that does the service gets Misim B'dei Shemayim, he learns it Mitamei Sheshimesh. He learned it from a Tamei that did the service. That just like a Tamei that does the service in the Beis HaMikdash gets Misim B'dei Shemayim, which we established that, so also a Balmum that does the service, it also says Yichalel, will also get Misa B'dei Shemayim. And Gama Psul Guf, they're both psul in their body. One's a tamei, one's a balmum. Kodesh pinim pigel v'noiser. They both have to do with the Beis Hamikdash. Kodesh pinim pigel v'noiser. So therefore, that is the source of Rebbe. Rebbe once again said that a balmum, a kohen that has a handicap, if he does the service, will get misa b'dei shemayim. V'rabbanan, what do Rabbanan? They hold it's only a lav. On Makra, because the pasuk says by truma, it says umesu boy ki chalaluha, right? It says boy, so it says boy by truma. So it's coming to exclude something will not get misa b'dei shemayim, and that is what's not going to get misa b'dei shemayim v'loy b'balmum, not a balmum to do. Will get misa b'dei shemayim, and we're excluding a balmum. And you're not going to exclude a tamei or tvul yoim because that is a tamei. So we're mamayit a balmum that does the service according to Rabbanan will only get a lav, no misa b'dei shemayim. Hazid b'mi'ilah, the Mishnah said, the Brisa said, if someone by mazid benefited from something from kachim and would be mechayev mi'ilah, Rabbi Yomi b'misa, he gets misa b'dei shemayim. The Chachamim say you only get a lav. My time with the Rebbe. What's the reason of Rebbe? Amar Ababo Gama Chet Chet Mitruma. We have Gzeir Shava Chet Chet from Truma that it says by Mi'ilav Chata Bishgaga, and it says also by Truma V'lo Yisu Olav Chet Umeisu Boy Ki Chalaluhu. So we darshan a chet. They both have the word chet. So just like by truma, atomic kain eating truma gets misa b'dei shemayim. So if you do a mazin and benefit from kachim, you also get misa b'dei shemayim. Malahan b'misa avkam b'misa. Rabbanan amri amakra boy v'lay b'mila. Taisha says boy that only truma will get misa b'dei shemayim, but not mi'ila. Now we go into the final part of this parak. The Mishnah said, the Gemara says, Zar sheshimish b'migdash, a Yisrael that did the service in the Beis Hamikdash. We said so far that what do you get? Misa b'dei shemayim. This Bryce is going to say that there are others are going to say that you not only a Yisrael that did the service will get, some are going to hold you get skila, and we're going to see a shita that you get chenek. So Tanya, we learned to the Brysa. Rabbi Shmuel says, Nemakan v'azara karv yumes. The Torah tells you that a Yisrael that did the service gets death, put to death. V'nem elahan, it says over further, kol akarv el mishkan yamus. So by Koirach, whoever will get close to the Mishkan, it says yamus. Malahalan, just by the parsha of Koirach is b'dei shemayim, was killed b'dei shemayim through heaven. Avkam b'dei shemayim. So Yisrael that did the service, according to Rabbi Shmuel, will get misa b'dei shemayim. Rabbi Kiva says you get much worse than that. It says "V'azar hakorev yumas v'nem alahala hanovi ahu acholim hachaloim hahu yumas malahalam beskila." Just like a novi sheker gets skila, afkan beskila. So also over here, the amesis gets skila. So also over here you get skila. So hazar hakorev yumas, according to Rabbi Kiva, you have Gzeir Shava. Yumas to Yumas, and therefore you get skila. Rabbi Yochanan says malahalam b'chenek. By that, he holds that a navi that was a mediach gets chenek, avkan b'chenek. But my kami palge Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Kiva. The Gemara concludes: why is Rabbi Shmuel arguing Rabbi Kiva? Rabbi Shmuel holds you get misa b'dei shemayim. Rabbi Kiva holds you get chenek, you get skila. Rabbi Kiva sava yumas vein done in yumas miyamus. Rabbi Yekiva is Gzeir Shava makes more sense. Words. Here it says Vazara Karav Yumas, and it says by the Navi that's Mediach to do Avodah Zarah. It says also the word Yumas. The Mediach gets Yumas. So therefore, Yumas to Yumas is a better word than Yumas to Yamus. Rabbi Shmuel Oimer Don and Hedyet Mehedyet Ve'ein Don Mehedyet Menavi. Shmuel says that wouldn't be a good Gzeir Shava because one is talking about Yisrael, the Hazar, and the Hanavi is talking about a Navi. So it's not the same subject, so therefore you wouldn't learn a Gzeir Shava. Rabbi Kiva says it's still a Gzeir Shava, Kevan Shediach, since he's trying to convince people to do Avodah Zarah, Ein Lecho Hedyet Gadol Mazeh, he's considered a comedy, he's not considered a Navi. So it's a good Gzeir Shava, rather learn that Gezerah Shava than the Gezerah Shava that Rabbi Shmuel learned. The Mai Kumi Palgi Rabbi Kiva Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri concludes the Gemara. Why does Rabbi Kiva hold that you get skila, a Zor Yisrael that did the service in the base of Mikdash gets skila? Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri holds you get chenek. But pluk to Rabbi Shimon Rabbanim. The Tanya, the question is, you learn the Gezerah Shava to Navi Shediach by a Mediach, but what does a Mediach get? Navi Shediach beskila, Rabbi Shimon I'm a mechanik, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri aligns himself with Rabbi Shimon, and comes out that Rabbi Kiva will hold Navi Shediach gets skila. Says the Gemara on Antanan, Rabbi Kiva I'm a mechanik. Rabbi Kiva also says that Navi Shediach gets chenek. And says the Gemara, today Tanoia Valibid Rabbi Kiva. There's two Tanoim arguing what Rabbi Kiva said. Masnis and that Mishnah says Rabbi Shimon Valibid Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Shimon aligned himself with Rabbi Kiva, which they both hold chenek. And Braisa, Rabbanan Valibid Rabbi Kiva. And the Braisa is Rabbanan, who are also Talmid and Rabbi Akiva, and they heard from Rabbi Akiva that a Navi Shediach gets skila. Either way, you learn Gezerah Shava from Navi Shediach to Azar Hakarav Yumas, and so we'll say a Yisrael that did the service will get skila. Hadron Allah Elu Yisrafim. We go to the next parak, brand new Mishnah. Eluhein Hanechnokim. The following people will get the choking death. Hamaka Aviv. If you slap your father or mother and cause a wound, that's very important. If you cause a wound, so when you wound somebody else, you paid for damages, or if it was less than a shava pruta, then at most you'll get malchus. And if you killed you killed another human being, you get the sayif, the sword penalty. But if you just slap your father or mother or your mother and you cause a wound, bleeding, then you get chenek, the choking death. Then the Mishnah says, and this is all going to be discussed in this parak. If you kidnapped a Jew and you sold him, you get chenek. One person of the Sanhedrin who rebels against Bezdin, we'll learn more about that, he gets the chenek. Navi Hasheker, a Navi who says false things in the name of God. Or somebody who's saying that you should do a mitzvah. Let's say he says you should do tefillin, put on tefillin, but he's saying not God said that, some Avodah Zarah said that. So he gets the chenek. Someone who has relations with a married woman will also get chenek. And here we know that a bas kohen that's married to a man. So if if witnesses said that bas kohen did znus, that bas kohen will get sreifa. But the adulterer, the one that she did znus with, would get chenek. Now, if we find out that those Eidim were Zoimimim, turned out to be false, so to the woman they wanted to make her chayev sreifa. To the man they wanted to mechayev him chenek. But now that they are found to be false, what do you give this Eidim Zoimimim? We give them chenek, and that's also included into the Elohein Hanechnokim. Okay, so the first thing that we discussed in the Mishnah is that if you hit your father or mother, you get the chenek. Maka avavim imanolim. How do you know you get chenek? The ksiv, because the pasuk says maka avavim moisumas. If you hit your father or mother, you get the death. V'chol misa amura b'tar stam. If the Torah doesn't tell you what type of death, eine el chenek, it means the choking. Says the Gemara. Wait a second. Who says that the Torah is talking about you just slapped your father or mother? Maybe maybe if you killed your father or mother, that's when you get chenek. So Gemara says, Salka Daikter, could you say such a thing? Katachad, if you killed anybody else, B'sayif, you get much worse type of death. Means you get the knife. But if you kill your father, B'chenek, you'll get something less severe, which is the choking. So it must be that when the Torah says you get to choking, it's not because you killed your father or mother, it's because you hit them. Says the Gemara, that all your logic makes sense, according to the opinion chenek kal. That chenek is more of a lighter type of like we say in the davening, skilas reva hereg v'chenek. Chenek is the easiest. According to the opinion of Rab Shimon, who said that chenek is more severe than sayiv, maybe that's what the Torah is telling you. If you kill a regular individual, you get sayiv. If you're going to kill your father, you're going to get chenek. How are you going to square that off? How do you know that the pasuk's talking about that you didn't actually kill your father? Answers the Gemara, Elo, Midiksiv maki ish v'meis ma'isumas. Uksiv oibe be'eva hiko biyade v'yamos. Here, when the Torah wants to tell you that the word hika means death, the Torah will spell it out to you. Vayamos. Oibe eva hiko biyade vayamos. Since the Torah did not spell it out for you, right? Shma mina kol hecha deika hakostam. The Torah is trying to tell you that whenever I'm going to write hakah, I means lav misa. He means he didn't die. So when the Torah wrote maka ove v'imoy mois yumas, it means that parents didn't die. It's just that you hit them. And the Torah just tells you that when you kill somebody, the Torah spelled it out for you. Maka ish v'meis mois yumas, right? And the person died. So there it says that the actual person died. So the person died. So therefore, when it says Make Avavima, it means that the parent did not die. And nevertheless, the child will get the Misa. Says the Gemara of Itzrach. Now the Gemara asks a side question, like an open parentheses. The Itzrach Lemikidus Mach Ish, the Torah tells you in two places that if you kill a human being, you get the death penalty. You get chenek. The Torah tells you if you kill another human being, you get the death penalty. And the Torah also has to tell you, kol maki nefesh. If you kill any live being, you get the death penalty. Why does the Torah say it twice? Because of Rachmana maki ish. If the Torah would have said, if you hit an adult, you get the death penalty, havamin, I would have thought, ish. Only if you kill an adult, the bar mitzvah that does mitzvahs, if he's over 13, so if you kill him, then you get the death penalty. Katan, but if you kill somebody that's below bar mitzvah, since he's not doing any mitzvahs, you will not get the death penalty. Kas rachmana kol maki nefesh. Anybody who kills anybody gets the death penalty. If the Torah would have written kol maki nefesh, if you kill anybody, you get the death penalty. Havamina, I would think, afil nefalim, afil ben shmeina. I would think that even if you killed somebody that was going to die anyway, very shortly, like a baby that was born in the 8th month, which is guaranteed to die below 30 days. So I might think that if someone kills that type of baby, we'll get the death penalty. Tzricha, it has to be, that's why you need Maki Ish. Maki Ish tells you that this person will eventually become into a man. Now, another half a minute, and then we'll stop. So, maske ve'ema, one more half a minute. Ve'ema, afagav deloy oved bechabura. How do you know that if maybe when you hit your father and mother, you didn't make it bleed, and you'll get the death penalty, even if you didn't make it bleed? Alama tanan, why did the Mishnah say hamaka oved ve'ema eina chayev ad shiyasa behen chabura? You're not chayiv until you actually make them bleed. If you're telling me that maka ova v'imai means you just hit your father or mother, you get the death penalty, how do you know you have to make them bleed in order to get that death penalty? So here we'll end. Amakra, the pasuk says, maka odom or maka behema. If you hit a human being and you hit an animal, and it's this juxtaposition. Ma maka behema, just like when you hit an animal, until you actually cause the animal, you're not held responsible until you cause the animal to bleed. Af the ksib or nefesh, af maka odam, by the hitting of the man, which refers to the father, ad aved bechabura, until you actually made a chabura. So the Gemara asks one last question. What do you mean for damages for an animal? If you didn't make it bleed, you're not going to be held liable. What happens if you made the animal weaker by loading it with stones or hitting it with stones? And it did not bleed. Are you going to tell me that you're not held liable? Ella, truth is like this. The final answer is the Torah tells you that in order to be held liable for damages for an animal, you have to make it bleed, because the Torah says nefesh behema. You made the animal bleed. But the truth is you're held liable even if you did not make the animal bleed. So it's not talking about an animal. So it must be referring to someplace else where the Torah requires you, in order to be held liable, to make it bleed. And that must be when you hit your father and mother. That if you hit your father and mother and you did not make it bleed, you don't get the death penalty. If you hit them and you made them bleed, the person will get chenek. Okay, we'll stop over here.